The mahogany conference room of Blackwell Industries reeked of old money and older prejudices. 20 board members in bespoke suits sat around the massive table, all carefully avoiding eye contact with me, the supposed black sheep of the Blackwell family. My uncle Richard, current CEO, barely concealed his smirk as he adjusted his Patek Philippe watch. "Now Thomas, you know these quarterly meetings are for serious investors only. Perhaps you should wait outside with the secretaries." A few board members chuckled. They'd all heard the stories. Thomas Blackwell, the wayward nephew who'd walked away from the family business 5 years ago to find himself. The disappointment who'd reportedly been jumping from job to job, never amounting to anything. If only they knew those jobs were actually carefully calculated moves, each one building my knowledge of different market sectors. If only they knew about Atlas Capital, the investment firm I'd built in secret, using a web of shell companies to hide my identity as I systematically bought up Blackwell Industries shares. "Of course, Uncle Richard," I said quietly, gathering my cheap briefcase, actually a limited edition Bottega Veneta that cost more than his watch. I wouldn't want to disturb the serious business. My cousin James, the heir apparent, lounged in his chair with practiced arrogance. "Don't worry, cousin. I'll fill you in on any big words you don't understand." More laughter. I thought about the notification I'd received this morning. Atlas Capital now owned 51% of Blackwell Industries shares. The paperwork would hit the SEC filing system in exactly 20 minutes. "That's thoughtful," I replied, standing to leave. "Though I think today's meeting might be more interesting than you expect." Richard waved his hand dismissively. Yes. "Linda, please show my nephew out. Now on to real business." Linda, Richard's executive assistant, stepped forward to escort me. But before we reached the door, another assistant burst into the room, her face flushed with excitement. "Mr. Blackwell," she exclaimed. "Sir, the SEC filings just went public. Atlas Capital has acquired majority ownership of Blackwell Industries." The room erupted in chaos. Richard's face turned an interesting shade of purple as he frantically pulled up the filing on his tablet. James knocked over his $200 coffee in his rush to see the documents. "Impossible." Richard sputtered. "Who the hell is Atlas Capital? Get our lawyers on the phone immediately." I slowly turned back to face the room, enjoying the moment I'd spent 5 years orchestrating. "That won't be necessary, Uncle. Atlas Capital's CEO is already here." The silence that followed was absolutely delicious. What are you talking about?" James stammered. I pulled out my own tablet, displaying Atlas Capital's complete portfolio, dozens of strategic investments across multiple industries, with Blackwell Industries as the crown jewel. "While you were busy mocking my career choices," I explained calmly, "I was building something rather interesting. Atlas Capital now controls 51% of Blackwell Industries shares. And I control Atlas Capital." Richard's hands trembled as he checked the filing again. "This is some kind of trick. You couldn't possibly have outsmarted you?" I finished, taking my seat at the head of the table, his seat. "The same way I couldn't possibly understand serious business." The board members shifted uncomfortably, suddenly realizing they'd been laughing at their new majority shareholder. "Linda," I called to the assistant, "please distribute the documents outlining the immediate changes to Blackwell Industries' management structure." She efficiently handed out folders to each stunned board member. The contents were clear. Complete restructuring of the executive team, starting with Richard's immediate removal as CEO. "This is outrageous." Richard exploded, his face now dangerously red. "You can't just walk in here and—" "Actually I can," I interrupted smoothly. "That's what majority ownership means. Something you should understand being such a serious investor." James was frantically texting, probably trying to reach his lawyers. "The family board seats are protected," I finished for him. "But executive positions aren't. Starting today, Blackwell Industries has a new CEO. And Uncle Richard, you might want to clear out your office. I'll need it within the hour." The room had gone from chaos to stunned silence. These men who'd dismissed me for years were now realizing that while they'd been laughing, I'd been quietly taking control of their empire. My phone buzzed, another SEC filing confirmation. "Right on schedule." "Now," I said, opening my briefcase, "shall we discuss the real business?" The next hour unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony of corporate chaos. Richard remained frozen in his chair, his Patek Philippe ticking away the final minutes of his reign. James had retreated to a corner, frantically whispering with his personal lawyer on the phone. "Let's review the changes, shall we?" I pulled out more documents, savoring each flinch from the board members as I laid out their new reality. First, a complete audit of all executive decisions made in the past 5 years. "You can't." Richard started. "Page 3 of your new contracts." I cut him off. "Atlas Capital has already engaged forensic accountants. They're particularly interested in those overseas acquisitions you've been so proud of." The color drained from his face. We both knew what the accountants would find, the same creative bookkeeping I'd been documenting for years while playing the role of the clueless nephew. Linda efficiently distributed more folders. "The transition team's recommendations, sir," she said, addressing me with a slight smile. She, like many long-term employees, had suffered under Richard's arrogant leadership. "Thank you, Linda. And please cancel my uncle's lunch reservation at Le Cirque. I don't think he'll be celebrating today." James finally stepped forward, his lawyer's whispered advice apparently giving him courage. "The family trust," he began, "has been thoroughly reviewed," I finished, clicking to a new presentation slide. "Interesting how many trust violations occurred under your father's management. Would you like to discuss those now?" He retreated back to his corner, his bravado deflating. One of the older board members, Harrison Peters, cleared his throat. "Mr. Blackwell, miss, surely we can discuss this reasonably. Your uncle has led this company for 20 years. Into mediocrity," I interrupted. "Would you like to see the real performance numbers? Not the ones presented at these serious board meetings, but the actual figures." I projected the true data onto the screen. Years of declining innovation, lost market share, and missed opportunities, all hidden under Richard's creative accounting. "While you were busy protecting your comfortable board seats," I continued, "Blackwell Industries lost its edge. We're no longer industry leaders, we're barely keeping pace. And why? Because this room preferred maintaining the old guard over pursuing real innovation." Richard finally found his voice. "You ungrateful little." "Careful, uncle," I warned softly. "Your severance package depends on your cooperation. Though the SEC might have questions about your cooperation regardless." The threat hung in the air like expensive cigar smoke. Every person in the room knew exactly what a thorough SEC investigation would reveal. My phone buzzed again, a message from my real executive team, waiting in the wings. "Transition team in place. Media statement prepared. Waiting for your signal." Now, I addressed the board, you have 2 options. Accept the new leadership structure and maintain your positions under closer oversight, or resign and face the consequences of your past decisions. Harrison Peters was the first to crack. "I move to accept the new structure," he said quickly, years of self-preservation instincts kicking in. Others followed suit, the show of hands spreading around the table like dominoes falling. Only Richard and James remained opposed, their world crumbling around them. "James," I turned to my cousin, "you're being transferred to our Singapore office. Consider it a learning opportunity." "Singapore," he sputtered. "But I'm supposed to be the next CEO." "You were supposed to earn that position," I corrected him. "Instead, you relied on your last name and your father's protection. Time to learn what real work looks like." Linda appeared with more papers. "Sir, the press is gathering in the lobby. They're requesting a statement about the leadership change." I checked my watch, right on schedule. "Tell them the new CEO of Blackwell Industries will address them in 30 minutes. Richard stood up, straightening his tie in a futile attempt to maintain dignity. "You have no idea what you're doing. You'll destroy everything we built." "No, uncle," I replied calmly. "I'm going to build something better. Something real. Not an empire of smoke and mirrors, but a company that actually innovates." I turned to Linda. "Please show my uncle to HR. They'll handle his exit paperwork." Then to the board, "Meeting adjourned. Though I suggest you all stay close. The forensic audit begins tomorrow." As the room cleared out, James made one last attempt. "You can't do this to us. We're family." I thought about all the family dinners where they'd mocked my choices. All the board meetings I'd been excluded from. All the times they'd dismissed my potential while I was quietly building the means to take everything. Family. I smiled. Funny how that word only matters when you need something from me. My phone buzzed one final time, confirmation that Richard's executive access had been terminated. In his corner office, my team was already replacing his nameplate with mine. Linda, I called. Please send in the PR team. It's time to introduce Blackwell Industries' new leadership to the world. And as I watched Richard and James being escorted out, I thought about how right they'd been all along. These meetings really were for serious investors only. They just never realized I was their biggest one. As I stood at the podium 30 minutes later, facing a sea of reporters and flashing cameras, I couldn't help but notice my uncle and cousins skulking at the back of the room. They looked lost without their usual seats of power, just two more spectators watching the dismantling of their world. Good morning, I began, my voice carrying across the packed auditorium. Today marks a new chapter for Blackwell Industries. One of transparency, innovation, and actual progress. The reporters' fingers flew across their keyboards. In the front row, I spotted journalists from the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times, publications that had often featured glowing profiles of Richard's leadership. For too long, I continued, this company has rested on its legacy rather than building its future. That changes today. My team started displaying slides showing Atlas Capital's true portfolio, dozens of innovative startups, technological breakthroughs, and market-leading positions across multiple sectors. The reporters' typing grew more frenzied. Atlas Capital didn't just acquire Blackwell Industries, I explained, watching Richard's face contort as each new revelation hit. We've spent years building a network of companies that will revolutionize every industry we touch. A hand shot up from the Financial Times reporter. Mr. Blackwell, how did you acquire majority ownership without the market noticing? I smiled, thinking of all the shell companies and careful planning. The same way I built Atlas Capital, by understanding that true power comes from wisdom, not just wealth. Another reporter jumped in. Your Uncle Richard has been quoted calling you the family disappointment. Any response? In the back, Richard seemed to shrink further into himself. James was still frantically texting, probably trying to salvage his network of connections. Success, I replied carefully, isn't measured by family approval. It's measured by results. I clicked to the next slide, showing Blackwell Industries' true performance under Richard's leadership. These results speak for themselves. The room erupted with questions as the reporters digested the reality behind Richard's creative accounting. My uncle made a move toward the exit, but my security team, already in place, subtly blocked his path. Starting today, I continued over the chaos, Blackwell Industries will undergo a complete transformation. Every department, every division, every process will be reviewed and optimized. Linda appeared at my side with a fresh stack of press releases. Sir, the first wave of executive changes has been implemented. And your uncle's office is ready. I nodded, then addressed the room again. We're announcing several immediate changes. First, a complete restructuring of our executive team. Second, a thorough audit of all operations. And third, I paused for effect, a new global headquarters in Singapore. James's phone clattered to the floor. He just realized his transfer wasn't the cushy exile he'd imagined. He'd be working in a junior position, reporting to people who'd earned their roles through merit, not nepotism. Additionally, I continued, Atlas Capital is launching a $5 billion innovation fund. We're not just changing leadership, we're revolutionizing how this company operates. More questions flew from the reporters. I noticed Richard being approached by two serious-looking men in suits. Investigators, right on schedule. One final announcement, I said, silencing the room. Effective immediately, Blackwell Industries will be implementing a new corporate governance structure. One based on performance, not privilege. I clicked to the final slide, displaying the company's new organizational chart. Richard's entire network of cronies was gone, replaced by proven innovators and leaders I'd spent years recruiting. Mr. Blackwell, a reporter called out. Your cousin James was widely expected to be the next CEO. Any comment on his new position? I caught James's eye across the room. Leadership isn't inherited, I replied. It's earned. Something this company is about to learn firsthand. As the press conference wound down, Linda brought me one final update. Sir, the transition team has found some interesting documents in your uncle's office. Send them directly to our lawyers, I instructed. And Linda? Have security escort my uncle to his exit interview. I don't think he'll want to miss it. The reporters began filing out, their stories already hitting the newswires. Blackwell Industries shocked by silent takeover. Atlas Capital emerges as market giant. Family empire faces revolutionary change. Richard made one last attempt to approach the podium, his face a mask of desperate anger. You can't just erase 20 years of leadership, he hissed. No, I agreed. But I can correct 20 years of mistakes. Starting with how this company treats real talent. As security led him away, I turned to Linda. Send a company-wide email. I want to meet with every department head over the next week. It's time they reported to someone who actually understands their work. My phone buzzed with messages from family members. Mother, how could you do this to your uncle? Aunt Patricia, the family will never forgive this betrayal. Cousin Emma, James is devastated. How could you be so cruel? I archived them all without responding. They'd never understood that business isn't about family loyalty. It's about vision, execution, and results. Later that evening, alone in my new office, Richard's former domain, I opened my grandfather's old ledger. He'd built Blackwell Industries from nothing, only to watch his son turn it into a playground for privileged mediocrity. The company's in better hands now, grandfather, I whispered, running my fingers over his faded handwriting. Finally in the hands of someone who understands what you built it for. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from James. This isn't over. Family doesn't do this to family. I smiled, thinking of all the times they'd excluded me from family decisions. All the times they'd dismissed my potential while I was quietly building the means to take everything. You're right, cousin, I typed back. It's not over. It's just beginning. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking control. It's showing them exactly why you deserve it. And as I watched the sun set over the city from my new office, I raised a glass to the future. To a company built on merit, not inheritance. To success earned, not granted. To showing them all what a family disappointment could really do. After all, they'd always said these meetings were for serious investors only. They just never expected me to become their biggest one.